Signs someone is manipulating you. Subscribe and like this video. 1. They twist your memories and make you question reality. Ever walk away from a conversation doubting what you know happened? Manipulators gaslight you by denying events, altering details, or insisting you're remembering it wrong. This erodes your confidence, leaving you reliant on their version of the truth. Classic in toxic relationships where they rewrite history to avoid blame. But here is how it usually unfolds in real life. It does not start dramatic. It starts small. You bring up something they said last week, something that hurt you or confused you, and they respond calmly, almost casually, "I never said that." Not aggressively, not loudly, just confidently. And confidence is powerful. Because when someone sounds certain, you begin to question yourself. Then it happens again. They change tiny details. That's not how it happened. You're exaggerating. You always misunderstand things. And suddenly, you are not just discussing the original issue anymore. You are defending your memory. You may even start adding disclaimers when you speak. Maybe I'm wrong, or I might be remembering this badly. That right there is the shift. You start weakening your own position before the conversation even begins. Over time, this creates dependency. Because if your version of reality feels unstable, whose version becomes safer? Theirs. And that is how manipulation quietly replaces your confidence with doubt. You stop trusting your instincts. You replay conversations in your head at night. You ask yourself if you are too sensitive, too dramatic, too forgetful. And the scariest part is, you don't even notice when it becomes normal. If that has ever happened to you, comment clarity below. I want to see how many people have experienced this silently. And make sure you subscribe, because understanding these patterns protects you from repeating them. And the next sign is even more emotional than this one. 2. They pile on guilt to pressure you emotionally. Feel like you're always the bad guy for saying no? They weaponize guilt with lines like, "After all I've done for you," or exaggerated stories of their sacrifices, making you feel selfish or ungrateful. It's a trap that keeps you complying, often seen in family dynamics or controlling partners who turn your empathy against you. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? You finally set a boundary. You finally say no. And instead of respecting it, they sigh, or they go quiet, or they bring up a long list of things they did for you in the past. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about your right to choose. It is about your loyalty, your gratitude, your character. You start feeling heavy inside. Not because you were wrong, but because they made refusal feel cruel. That is how guilt manipulation works. It attaches moral weight to simple decisions. It reframes independence as betrayal. And if you are someone who cares deeply about others, this tactic hits even harder. You might start giving in just to remove that uncomfortable feeling. Not because you agree, not because you want to, but because peace feels easier than carrying guilt. And slowly, without realizing it, you are being trained to associate boundaries with emotional punishment. And what makes this even more powerful is how it connects to the next pattern. 3. They use push and pull tactics to keep you hooked. One day, they're showering you with affection. The next, they're cold and distant. Sound familiar? This emotional roller coaster creates addiction-like highs and lows, making you chase their approval. It's a favorite in romantic manipulations, where the unpredictability keeps you off balance and invested. This one is powerful because it does not feel like manipulation at first. It feels like passion. It feels intense. When they are warm, they are very warm. Compliments, attention, deep conversations. You feel chosen, special, seen. Then suddenly something shifts. Replies become shorter. Energy becomes colder. You sense distance, but you are not told why. And your mind immediately starts searching for what you did wrong. That emotional drop creates anxiety. And anxiety creates pursuit. You want the warmth back. You want the closeness back. So you adjust yourself. You become more accommodating, more careful, more attentive. And when the warmth returns, it feels like relief. That relief is powerful. It reinforces the cycle, high, low, high, low. It is not random. It conditions attachment. And the unpredictability keeps you invested because you are constantly trying to regain emotional stability. If you are learning something valuable so far, like the video, it helps this message reach people who might need clarity but don't even realize they're being manipulated yet. And now the next one is where confusion becomes a weapon. 4. They criticize ambiguously and communicate vaguely. Comments like, "You know what you did," or backhanded compliments that leave you guessing, they avoid directness to sow self-doubt, forcing you to overanalyze and second-guess yourself. This is rampant in workplace bullying or passive-aggressive friendships where clarity is withheld to maintain power. Instead of telling you directly what the issue is, they leave hints, half sentences, tone shifts, statements that sound loaded but unclear, and now you are left trying to decode meaning. You replay their words in your head. Was that sarcasm? Was that an insult? Were they joking? Should I apologize? Healthy communication gives you clarity. Manipulation gives you puzzles, because when you are confused, you are easier to influence. When you are unsure, you are more likely to seek approval. You may even apologize for things you do not fully understand just to restore balance. And over time, you begin to monitor yourself constantly, not because you are doing something wrong, but because you fear hidden criticism you cannot see. And that leads directly into how boundaries slowly disappear. Number 5, they test your boundaries with small requests. It starts innocent, just this once, can you? But soon it's escalating demands that erode your limits. They probe for weaknesses, normalizing bigger intrusions over time. Think of that friend who borrows money just for a day and never stops. It's how manipulators gradually take control. The first request feels harmless. You even tell yourself it is not a big deal. And maybe it isn't. But what you do not see is that it is not about the request itself. It is about measuring your resistance. If you hesitate but still comply, they learn something. If you feel uncomfortable but say yes anyway, they learn something else. And next time the request grows slightly, not dramatically, just enough to stretch your comfort zone again. And because you already said yes before, saying no now feels inconsistent. So you go along with it, and then again, and again. By the time you realize your boundaries have shifted, you do not even remember where the original line was. And once boundaries blur, your personality becomes the next target. 6, they weaponize your own personality traits against you. If you're kind, they call you too sensitive. If ambitious, selfish. They flip your strengths into flaws to undermine you. This hits hard for empathetic people in professional settings, where a boss might exploit your dedication by guilting you into overwork. They study you, not in an obvious way, but they notice what matters to you. If you care about harmony, they frame disagreement as aggression. If you care about fairness, they accuse you of being unfair when you protect yourself. Suddenly, your strengths feel like weaknesses. You might start shrinking parts of yourself just to avoid criticism. You tone down your ambition. You hide your sensitivity. You question your generosity. But here's the truth. Your traits were never the problem. The manipulation was, and this is where the mental fog begins to form. 7, they leave you mentally foggy and confused after interactions. Conversations end, but your head spins with what just happened. They bombard with contradictions, rapid topic shifts, or overwhelming info to disorient you. Common in narcissistic encounters, it makes you question your sanity and easier to influence next time. You leave the conversation exhausted, not physically, mentally. You feel like you just ran a marathon inside your own head. They may have changed topics repeatedly, brought up old issues, mixed apologies with accusations. And by the end, you are not even sure what the original discussion was about. That confusion weakens clarity, and clarity is your strongest defense. When your mind is foggy, you are less likely to challenge inconsistencies. You just want it to stop. And sometimes you agree just to end the mental overload. If this resonates with you, subscribe, because the more aware you become of these patterns, the harder it is for anyone to quietly control your thinking. And now we move into something even more subtle. 8, they blame you for your own emotional reactions. When you get upset, they say you're overreacting, or that's your problem. This shifts focus from their actions to your feelings, dodging accountability. It's a go-to in arguments with manipulators, like a partner who provokes jealousy, then accuses you of being insecure. Instead of addressing what they did, the focus turns to how you reacted. Your anger becomes the issue. Your sadness becomes the issue. Your discomfort becomes the issue. Now, you are defending your emotions instead of examining their behavior. And if this repeats often enough, you may start suppressing your feelings entirely just to avoid being labeled dramatic or unstable. That is not emotional maturity. That is emotional conditioning. And once emotions are redirected, kindness becomes a tool. 9. They deploy strategic kindness as a tool for leverage. Gifts or favors come with strings. Remember that time they helped you, only to bring it up later? It's not genuine. It's calculated to create debt. Seen in sales tactics or insincere friendships where the nice act is bait for future demands. They do something generous, something thoughtful, and you feel grateful. But weeks later, it resurfaces. Remember when I helped you? The kindness becomes currency. Now you feel indebted. True generosity does not keep receipts. Manipulation does. And once you feel indebted, your decisions start tilting in their favor. But this next sign goes even deeper into identity. 10. They make you feel morally obligated to give in. They frame their wants as ethical duties. A real friend would, or it's the right thing to do. This plays on your values, turning refusal into a moral failing. Prevalent in cult-like groups or manipulative leaders who guilt followers into loyalty. They attach identity to compliance. If you do this, you are loyal. If you refuse, you are selfish. It is no longer about the action. It is about who you are as a person. And most people would rather sacrifice comfort than question their identity. That is why this works. And once identity is targeted, information becomes the next battlefield. 11. They control the flow of information in conversations. They withhold key details, change subjects abruptly, or dominate talks to shape narratives. You end up in the dark, making decisions based on incomplete info. This is sneaky in negotiations or abusive relationships where info asymmetry keeps them in charge. They tell you what benefits their position. They omit what does not. They interrupt when you try to clarify. They overwhelm you with irrelevant details when you ask direct questions. And slowly, the conversation becomes unbalanced. You react. They steer. Information is power, and whoever controls it controls direction. And the final sign is the most calculated of all. 12. They predict and exploit your emotional responses. They know your triggers so well they anticipate reactions and use them, like provoking anger to paint you as unstable. It's premeditated, turning your emotions into ammunition, often in long-term manipulations where they've studied you to stay one step ahead. They know what frustrates you, what hurts you, what makes you insecure. And instead of protecting those vulnerabilities, they press on them. Then when you react, because you are human, they use that reaction as proof that you are the problem. It is strategic, it is rehearsed, and it keeps them one step ahead. If multiple of these feel familiar, do not ignore that pattern. Manipulation is rarely one loud moment. It is repetition. It is subtle conditioning. It is erosion over time. Comment below which sign stood out the most to you. Awareness is protection. And if you want to keep sharpening your psychological awareness and understanding how human behavior really works, subscribe. Because the people who understand these patterns early are the ones who never fall for them twice.